You turn off the main lamp before bed, and the dark still doesn't take over. A charger glows. A hallway leaks under the door. A screen warms itself to amber, as if color alone could pardon it. To you, this feels harmless. To the circadian system, photons are still arriving in the interval that once meant night. The popular argument is cramped. Blue light is either ruining sleep, or wellness culture has inflated the danger. Both miss the deeper mechanism. Blue-sensitive melanopsin cells matter, but the brain isn't only detecting blue color. It's using nighttime light as a circadian timing signal through specialized retinal pathways, not just conscious vision. Your brain isn't asking whether the room looks bright enough to read in. It's asking whether night has truly arrived. Hold that thought. The phone isn't innocent, but it isn't large enough to explain the whole crime. Night was once a locked gate, and civilization has learned to leave it permanently half open. The bedroom is no longer just a private resting place. It's a quiet, biological courtroom where light keeps testifying against night. The simple version goes like this. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin, and that's why sleep falls apart. It isn't a lie. It's just too small to hold the whole event. Inside the retina, melanopsin-containing ganglion cells are strongly sensitive around the blue sign range, near 480 nanometers, and they send timing information toward the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Blue light isn't magic poison. It's more like a loud accent in the language of daytime. So yes, blue matters. But that answer is almost too convenient. If blue light is one loud instrument, then artificial evening light is the larger orchestra that should have stopped playing after sunset. Night mode can quiet one section. It can make the screen warmer, softer, less visually harsh. But warmth isn't darkness, and reduced blue isn't the same as silence. This is where the reassurance begins to fail. You may solve the color problem while leaving the timing problem alive, still tapping at the brain with the wrong message at the wrong hour. Melatonin isn't being used here as a sleep supplement or as a wellness word printed on a bottle. In this argument, it's a measurable marker of biological night. When it rises, the body is writing darkness into chemistry. Think of melatonin as the body's night ink. The message is simple, but ancient. The outside world has gone dark, and internal time should move with it. Indoor light is the solvent. It doesn't need to argue with the message. It only has to fade it before it can dry. In 1980, Alfred Louis and colleagues reported in Science that sufficiently bright artificial light at night could suppress nocturnal melatonin in humans. This wasn't a theory about bad habits or a moral complaint about staying up late. It was a hormone changing under artificial night exposure the body noticed. Now, make this smaller. Forget the city for a moment and think about one ordinary lamp. That is where the 2011 room light study matters. Ordinary room light before bedtime suppressed melatonin, delayed its onset, and shortened melatonin duration by roughly 90 minutes. For context, this is not the body losing a few minutes of sleepiness. It is the night signal being chemically shortened before sleep even begins. 90 minutes is not an abstract lab interval. It is the time between deciding you are winding down and actually reaching the edge of sleep. It is the quiet part of the evening, when the body should be letting the ink darken, line by line. Under ordinary light, that message can arrive late, thinner, and partly erased. This is why the screen-only story fails. A phone can be part of the solvent, but the lamp beside it can also play a role. The ceiling above you can play a role. The lit hallway can play a role. The problem is not just a glowing rectangle stealing attention. It is a lit environment interfering with the chemistry that tells the brain night has begun. And once that is clear, the harmless room around you no longer feels passive. It is helping postpone your internal night. The device enters the evidence record because it is controlled, small, and easy to isolate. In the 2015 PNAS e-reader study, participants who used a light-emitting e-reader before bed had suppressed evening melatonin, a delayed circadian phase, longer sleep latency, and reduced next morning alertness compared with reading a printed book. For context, the device did not only keep the mind entertained, it moved the body's clock, That matters, because the screen is not only a temptation, it is a small window cut into a much larger artificial dawn surrounding the planet. Through that window, the body receives light at an hour when an older environment would have given it darkness, or at least something much closer to darkness than a lit surface held near the face. No sermon is needed here. The experiment does not prove that a person is weak for reading late. It proves that a useful object can carry a timing signal the body did not evolve to ignore. The printed book kept the same cognitive ritual, the same act of reading, the same quiet evening intention. The difference was the light. That is the clean part. Hold that thought. That would be enough if the light ended at the edge of the device. It does not. The 2016 World Atlas of Artificial Night Sky Brightness estimated that more than 80% of humanity and more than 99% of people in the United States and Europe live under light-polluted skies. For context, artificial night is no longer an object on your nightstand. It is an atmosphere many people sleep inside. This is the scale shift. The e-reader shows what happens when a single illuminated tool presses against the body's night chemistry. The atlas shows that the tool is only a fragment of a wider condition, where streets, buildings, windows, signs, and interiors keep delivering the same message long after sunset. So the villain isn't the phone in isolation. It's easier to hate a device than to admit the boundary itself has been weakened. Modern light didn't simply add convenience to the evening, it made night negotiable. And once night can be negotiated, your circadian system has to bargain with the environment that surrounds you. The field evidence makes the argument colder because it removes the device from the center. Among the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tismane in Bolivia, sleep didn't begin automatically at sunset. It stayed embedded in real outdoor night, cooling temperature, and dawn exposure. For context, the old world was not a perfect sleep machine. People still talked, watched fires, woke up, and waited, but the night itself still pushed back. That difference is easy to underestimate. Darkness wasn't a mood or a lifestyle preference or a decorative absence. It was ecological infrastructure. It was an external law that once closed the biological border at the edge of the day. The body could resist it, delay inside it, or wake inside it. But the border still arrived from outside the body. Not a preference, a boundary. This is where the story becomes less about sleep hygiene and more about authority. Because in that older arrangement, the individual didn't have to manufacture the entire signal alone. The decline of outdoor illumination, the drop in temperature, and the return of dawn formed a sequence that kept time without asking for consent. The body still had its own internal machinery, but the surrounding world gave that machinery a wall to lean against. Now, make this smaller. The contrast from Argentine communities sharpens the point. Access to electricity was associated with later sleep timing and shorter sleep duration. For context, electricity didn't merely let an evening last longer. It allowed the edge of the day to be reopened after it had already closed. That is the civilizational change, hiding behind the softer phrase, artificial night. The issue isn't that modern people fail to perform a better bedtime ritual. The issue is that a boundary, which once arrived as weather, distance, temperature, and darkness, can now be adjusted, extended, and ignored. Night no longer enters as a condition. It enters as an option. This is why blaming the phone is too simple. A phone can demonstrate the mechanism, but electricity is what changes the jurisdiction. It moves authority from the environment into the hand, the wall switch, the outlet, the lit interior, the illuminated street outside the window. The body still reads timing from exposure, temperature, and dawn, but the external law has been made negotiable. No rescue follows from that observation, no neat moral correction, only a cost. When night becomes optional, the body inherits a task the environment once performed for it, knowing when to stop, return to the bedroom, where this began. The main lamp is off, but dim lamps still hold the edges of the room. An amber screen waits beside the bed. Hallway light leaks under the door. Street light presses through the fabric. The modern night is a door with no lock. And the circadian system is an old guard, still waiting for an order that no longer comes. The chain is no longer scattered. Melanops and timing signals told the brain that light at night was not just brightness, but information. In other words, the eye was not merely seeing, it was helping the body decide what time the world had become. Melatonin suppression showed that artificial light could reach into the chemistry of night. Room light shortened the biological night. A light-emitting e-reader delayed circadian timing. Global light pollution moved the problem beyond any one device. Electricity shifted sleep behavior by changing whether evening still had a hard edge. So the question was never whether blue light is real. The question is what blue light was hiding. It was hiding the missing command. Night mode can warm the color, but it cannot restore enforced darkness. A softer signal is still a signal if it arrives when the older system expected the border to close. Your body is not confused because it is weak. It is confused because an ancient external command has been replaced by 1,000 small permissions. No routine is being offered here. No rescue. Only the shape of the loss. Darkness was once part of the body, even though it came from outside the body. The modern room is comfortable because it can postpone night, and that is exactly what makes it biologically strange.